Hey, welcome to what is this? Oh, it's Sunday morning, and I'm Sheeta's on the loose. And I am here today with Michelle from Afro Expats, and we are going to be talking to you about life in San Miguel de Allende. We're going to be talking to you about living in Mexico, and we're going to be talking about some pretty cool things that Michelle has been doing down here in Mexico. So we're super excited to have
Yes.
you with us, and let's go. Okay, so before we get started, couple of minor
Mhm.
announcements. It wouldn't be a Sunday morning live with Rashida unless there was a technical difficulty. Um, I am using a program for the first time, and I cannot get Michelle's words to sync with her face. So if that bothers you, it's probably going to be like this the whole time. Go ahead and click off now. If not, she's got a lot of good wisdom to share, so stick around for it. But yeah, technical issues is what I do. I should be known for this by now. Something is going to go wrong. So we're happy to have you here. And if you have questions
Thank
about
you.
anything, um, feel free to ask them in the comments. Michelle and I will get to you. And we're super excited to get started. So, okay, now there's a delay for me too. It is what it is. Michelle, tell us, tell us
Yes.
about yourself.
Well, I'm Michelle for Afro Expats. I live in San Miguel de Allende. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. Grew up in the Northeast in Connecticut. Moved around a little, traveled a lot, and before moving to Mexico 3 years ago, I was living in West Palm Beach. I'm married. I have a 9-year-old now, and here's where we are, right in central Mexico.
Okay. So I kind of want to start at the top. And I know your story, but I want to, because we've talked, but I want to start at the very beginning and
Mhm.
say, how did you go from Florida to Central Mexico?
Oh, it's kind of a long story, but I'll give you the short version. So I visited San Miguel de Allende in 2005, and it was very different. So at that time, I wasn't really interested in living full time in Mexico, but I always enjoyed visiting Mexico. And then we moved a bit, and I went back to the US, thought about, everything in regard to where do I want to live in the future. And then when I had my son, I just didn't want to raise him in the US as far as like, just schooling and just safety and different things that we all experienced while living there. And we started looking at different countries that we could basically escape to. And for whatever reason, Mexico kind of kept coming up in the research.
Okay. Okay.
And
So,
then finally, when it was all said, can you hear me?
yes.
Mhm. Okay. So when we kind of like did a lot of online research, looked at Costa Rica, looked at Panama, looked at Italy, sort of ruled those things out, and then we decided to take a research trip to Mexico. I had been in Mexico a lot before. I went to Oaxaca, Mexico City, Cancun, obviously. Everyone, I think, kind of makes their way to Cancun first. And I just kind of remembered like San Miguel was really quaint and cool when I visited, but I started digging a little deeper online and I thought, okay, you know what, let me look at this. And I found like several videos about living in San Miguel from a family perspective. And I just kind of felt like, you know what, I want to add that to my list of places to take a trip to. So in 2017, we did the research trip around the holidays, and it was so cool, very busy, but just really nice. And it was very calming here. A lot of really good energy, just hanging out in town with the holidays, and just, people were out and about. The whole family thing was like in full effect. So I think that really appealed to us. We liked the neighborhoods. We drove around the town quite a bit. We checked things out. We stayed for maybe 4 or 5 days, and then we went to Mexico City, and we stayed there. And I love Mexico. City. I know that's where you are, but I knew that for my husband it would be a lot to take in, especially if you don't really speak the language well. So when it was all said and done, we decided to pick San Miguel de Allende.
Okay. So yeah, I'm back. What's going on? All right. Okay. So
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. San Miguel. If you don't know, Michelle was featured on House
Okay.
Hunters International. So it's pretty cool because you can see her
Yep.
San Miguel de Allende story there. Um, Michelle, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
Well, I'm just going to talk in the background and let Michelle, if you guys can see me, let me know in the chat. Cha, 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 cha. But Michelle was on House Hunters International and she talked,
Yes.
you can see her story of her and her family looking for a place to live in San Miguel. So, Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about that experience? Not just the like being on TV, but we do want to hear about that, but also
Right.
finding a place to stay in San Miguel.
Okay, so House Hunters was cool. I don't want to really bust the bubble, but they kind of, a lot of it is staged. So it was a good experience to have, and also great because we were able to share our story and hopefully inspire other people that did not know about Central Mexico or parts of Central Mexico. But as far as the research part to find a place, when we made our trip here, we took a lot of time driving around, looking for housing. And initially, I thought I really wanted to live in Centro, and that's also on the show. And I basically decided at that time I don't want to have a car. I just want to walk to everything. I want to have access for my son to get constant walking around and exercise. And then, just you want to have the city experience. You want to experience like the cafes and just, I really wanted everything to be outside of my door, because I always liked the city vibe. And I just thought, okay, this is my chance to do it right in Mexico. Long story short, in making things balance, when we did our kind of neighborhood driving around the city, my husband really had a whole different image of what he wanted. So when we got to this development in particular, it was sort of the selling point because initially I think he wasn't really feeling living in San Miguel. And I think it was just because it was his first trip and time here. And he was trying to like figure out like, where do I fit in to this? And in his mind, living in the US and the suburbs and having amenities and blah blah blah, that was living for him, right? It wasn't walking around on cobblestone streets. So, and it was all kind of just, it happened to turn out this way where when we saw this particular house, we kind of both fell in agreement. And I thought about him and I was thinking about Micah. And then I thought about where I was. And I was just like, you know what? I'm cool with that because this definitely lends itself to kind of a more family setup and situation. There are a lot of families that live in our development, kids playing outside. It's very safe. And I thought if I were in Centro, we would have to like arrange play dates all the time. We would just be in the house all the time. And here it allows a lot more freedom. There's swimming and blah, blah, blah. So that's sort of how it happened was when he saw it, he was ready. He was just like, oh, let's do this right now. And I was kind of like, yeah, well, let's see, whatever. And then he got really anxious because he wasn't sure if we were going to get it. And I was just like, if it doesn't happen, that's fine. There'll be something else for us. But yeah, we ended up right here in this place.
So, finally, y'all, this has been a struggle this morning, but I finally got a chance to see the comments. So I see you guys in there. You mentioned that we're all
Can
staying.
you hear me?
I can hear you. I think people can see and hear us better than we can see and hear each other. So I think the video itself is fine based on the comments. But Tracy had a question about Centro. Hear a lot of people talk about Centro. What is Centro? Is that in every city in Mexico? What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I do. I think Centro is like downtown for us. It's the same concept where Centro is downtown of whatever the city is that you live in, and everyone just calls it El Centro, the center of wherever it is you are. In Mexico, I think it's really symbolic with the church. Most places will have a church, a huge church. Some cities, like last weekend, I went to Zacatecas. If you haven't heard about Zacatecas, definitely check it out. It is so nice. But they had several churches, and I think the history was is that the city was like kind of less populated, so they had several places where they built a church, and then eventually, what ended up happening was the city built around all of those churches with San Miguel. They start with the church and then they sort of build a city around it. But in that particular city, it was that they built all the churches in different places and then they built the city kind of after. So Centro is usually just the heart of wherever it is you are in Mexico.
Yeah, so Mexico City has a Centro Historico as well. Huge church, right? Like she said, it's not necessarily the downtown, but it's kind of the heart of the city. So um, Mexico City has a much bigger downtown than San Miguel does, but it's the same concept.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I see something here about your House Hunters episode. S. Hughes says, I saw that
Right.
House Hunters and it motivated me to start looking outside the US. Yay! Yay. That's exciting. So it's really like I
Yes. That
people
was
really love to hear that they had an impact on you. So I'm sure that's big for you. You, Michelle, hearing that you've impacted people and have them considering moving outside of the US.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, when I moved, I think I also was looking around for other people that had our experience and from our lens. And it was really interesting because I think I looked for it, but not hardcore. I found several expat sites or expat or Black expat YouTube channels, maybe a page where it was a story of a family moving, and I was just like, oh, that's so cool. I want to be like them. And they weren't even in Mexico. And as I said, Mexico wasn't really at the top of my list initially, just because I think it's so cliche for a lot of people to want to go to other places. And it just kind of kept coming in terms of the economics and the closeness to the US. So when it was all said and done, and now that I live here and having the opportunity to share my story, I realized that people want that inspiration. They want to see life through our lens and they want to feel like, you know what, I could be that person. I see myself in that situation. So I'm really happy that I've had several different outlets to be able to share our journey. Also, being a mom, bringing, a child to a new country, that can be nerve wracking, but it's been really a blessing. My son is fully fluent in Spanish. When I got here, I spoke probably beginner Spanish. I thought I was more intermediate. I thought I knew more than I actually did, but it wasn't something that I felt would hold me back and stop me from this. So it's really nice to see people like saying, "Hey, I saw you, blah blah blah, on TV," and it's not really just that. It's just that sharing the information and the experience, and that Mexico's not a scary place.
All right, but you also do some education for people about living in Mexico, right? You do um, some coaching and you help people who do want to move to Mexico, right? Did you hear me?
I didn't hear the first
Oh,
part.
I said that you do currently help people who want to move to Mexico, right? You do some coaching and some
Mhm.
training with people. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes, yeah, yes, definitely. So I have a website. It's called afroexpats.com. I basically help people with relocating, mostly to San Miguel, definitely Mexico in general, but I've decided to kind of niche down to San Miguel de Allende because I feel like I have a lot of resources after living here. There's the broader picture of what do I need for a visa? How do I do this? How do I do that? But then it comes down to where do I want to live? And I like this area. I actually love this area a lot. So I've decided to just kind of hone in on that. So on my website, you can find strategy sessions for that and then last minute move questions. So I've had several clients over the past month that literally sight unseen are just picking up and deciding to move here. In addition to that, I just launched my ebook, and you can find out more about San Miguel de Allende from a travel perspective. I also assist with people who want to visit on a travel base because a lot of times people are coming, like I did, to research it. And it's always nice to connect, with others. And it's not such a large city. I mean, the population is 170,000, but the expat population, which is also pretty big, but the Black expat population is pretty small. But we all kind of know each other. I mean, not that we do everything together every day, but we kind of have found each other here, and it's been really nice.
So, what is your favorite thing about the community there? Can you hear me?
I can't hear. Now
Um,
I can.
what is your favorite thing about the community there?
Oh, a lot of things. Okay, things. I'm going to talk about the community in a second, but there's just a lot to do. For example, there's a lot for, I think, every member in my household to do. My husband's made his little community of friends with, nice mix of guys. They do guy things like golfing and even ping pong. And then for my son, there's a lot for him to do. It's like a great family oriented community. There are lots of activities. For example, this summer, he's doing a robotics class that is 3 weeks long, and everything is so affordable. And as a whole, like since I moved here, so when I came, I came with a very Floridian kind of approach, which is, you speak to folks, but you don't really try to get to know people too much, unless you're in maybe a work situation or somewhere where you're around them all the time. And for whatever reason, I know Mexico is a lot this way, but San Miguel for me really feels a lot like a little mini paradise because, and I always say we live in a bubble, I hope that it stays that way at least for the next 5 or 10 years. But a lot of people are so willing to help across the board, meaning when I moved in, I was initially here with my son before my husband was able to move. And all of my neighbors that have children around his age, they were just all so welcoming. It's like, hey, can my son come over and play with you? And hey, we're having a birthday party, or hey, we're going to lunch. Would you like to come? So it wasn't really hard to get adjusted to living in a new place and not knowing the language perfectly. It really felt like, oh, this is my place. It was really welcoming. It was inviting. People are really friendly in Mexico in general. So I don't want this to sound like it's only San Miguel. The culture here is just very welcoming. And then the mix with the expat community and the locals, it's just like a giant melting pot where, there's not always this, very distinct divide. There are divides. Obviously, there are a lot of people working for the expat community, and there are lots of places that cater in general. But San Miguel, I know it's known for kind of being like the older expats and also known for people with money and all this other stuff, but there are a lot of Mexicans here with money. So, it's just a mix like this, meaning, you know, it's not just foreigners, if that makes sense. I see on the weekends, like people from Mexico City and all these other, like, more affluent areas in Mexico. These are people who come in, their second or third homes are here, and they hang out, and they're like stylish and classy and just gorgeous. And they're like prancing around, and then on Monday they're all gone, and then we're back to normal. But overall, I just think it's a great community that you can kind of have a softer landing if you are moving from somewhere else. And I know that there are other parts of Mexico that are up and coming this way, but what I loved about here is, one, I didn't want to be on the beach, not knocking it at all. I just moved from Florida, so I really had my 10 years worth of humidity and heat. So for me, I really like the mountains, and it's just gorgeous. We have great weather. It's almost like 75 to 85 year round during the daytime. It can chill down at nights in the like December, January months, things like that. But mostly it's just a really nice town that's in the mountains. We're like 5 hours away from the closest beach, just so people kind of get a understanding.
Good. That's helpful. I want to say I see the Yarbros in the
Hi,
comments.
April.
Hey, y'all. I don't know you, but I watch your videos, so it's kind of cool to see you here. But you guys have met, right? Our timing. Michelle, you've met the Yarbros, I feel like, in San Miguel. Did that happen? Why can't you hear me? I can't hear you.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Hey.
Hey. Okay. But this, a comment on the screen now was,
Yes, I have.
have
They
met.
were here. I can hear you.
Okay. All
I
right.
can hear you.
Okay. Do you live in a community of U.S. expats, or do you live
It's
among the locals?
cutting out a little.
Lo siento, everybody. Technical difficulties. We're gonna work it out. We're gonna work it out. Uh,
Yeah,
Michelle, where you live,
you're cutting. Mhm.
where you live now, is it? We'll talk about your where you specifically live, not the city in general, but where your housing is. Is it amongst the locals, or is it
Mhm.
mostly expats?
Actually, I would say it is mostly locals, but there are also a lot of Mexicanos or Mexicans that are married to Americans. But a lot of the houses in my development are second homes for other people, so it's pretty quiet. So I think there are about 80 units, and I would say we are at 50% capacity full time.
Okay.
It's really nice. It's really mixed actually, because we have some Americans, and then we also have probably a lot more Mexicans, but they aren't here all the time. So it's really a good mix.
Okay. And that was actually one of the things you mentioned was something I love about Mexico is it feels like I'm vacationing, but it doesn't feel like when I go to San Miguel, but it doesn't feel like I am a foreigner taking over a city because there are so many Mexicans that vacation there as well. You know
Right,
what I mean? Like I'm not like Cancun, let's party, right?
right.
And it's nothing but like,
Yeah,
American party. It very much feels like this is where
yeah,
Mexicans go for their vacation. It feels like I know Michelle
right,
and I have talked about this before, but it feels like having a second house in or any house at all in San Miguel can feel like a status symbol sometimes to some Mexican families, and so it's interesting
right.
to live in that dynamic. What don't you like? What don't you love about living in San Miguel?
Mm, I think there's not a what I don't love. I think it's kind of their day-to-day movements sometimes can be frustrating. And this probably happened more in the beginning of moving here where I didn't have an understanding of how things worked and how things operated. Like the banking system felt very archaic to me. I was so used to doing my Chase Bank, take a picture of a check and everything was super automated. And when I moved here, just kind of learning, how things work here can be overwhelming. Just paying bills, you can do it online. And I didn't feel comfortable at first doing that online because I didn't know the language well enough to really understand where am I transferring this money to. So I would manually go to the bank, and this is norm here, is to go to someone's bank account and deposit money like rent, So just imagine like walking around town with thousands of pesos in your pocket and walking to the next bank to make deposits. It was just very weird to me. And it was a little bit kind of like, what? This is crazy. And, people don't give you their credit card numbers in the US. And here, that's how it works. You can pay someone a payment for services or whatever. You go to a OXXO, which is like a 7-Eleven, and you give their credit card or their bank credit card number, and you make a deposit into their account for a small fee. Those kind of things were like really weird for me initially because I didn't understand the processes. And then when I would ask questions, I was always kind of like, you know, this doesn't make sense, or how, I don't know, just how how is this okay? Because we're set up so differently in the US. So that was sort of something that I needed to get used to, understanding when to make payments. I had one time where my electricity went out because we never got the paper bill. And for whatever reason, they just didn't print them that month. So I quickly learned, okay, where's the kiosk? Where do I go to check my, payment status? What do I owe or whatever? So it can be what we're used to in the U.S. is getting, things more systematically. And for the most part, now I know, and is the reason people like don't let those things overwhelm you. They happen.
Last month, my gas went out because the day I didn't get the bill while I was in the U.S. And when I showed up back here in Mexico City, the date to pay it had already passed. And so I was like, girl, I don't know what to do because OXXO won't take your money once the date is passed. Those payment places will not take your money for it. And so my gas was off. But I tell you, when my gas went off, I then figured out how to pay it. Like, it didn't take too long of the gas being off for me to figure out
Right.
exactly how to pay the gas bill. And now that I've done that, like I know the process now. Like, won't happen again. But they were like, no payment, no gas. And it's an interesting system, but if you know what to expect, it's a lot easier to maneuver. I have a question from Susan. Hi, Susan. And she asks if San Miguel still has a reputation as an artist colony, and is it more expensive than the average Mexican city?
Yes to both questions. It is extremely artistic here in general. From that perspective, not just nature, but just the way they've taken time to construct this city. It has still maintained the historic look, with just the exterior walls, but then you walk inside a courtyard and it's just absolutely stunning. I mean, I am taken aback on a regular basis as to how much beauty there is here, and I'm not exaggerating. It's just one of those things you have to experience for yourself. Cost of living is most definitely higher compared to other Mexican cities. However, um, when you compare it to cities in the US or a lot of places in the US, it's still very affordable. I feel too that, as in general, Mexico can kind of give you what you need. You just have to do your homework and your research. And I think doing these videos, there are a lot of other resources out there. The Yarbrough are one. You are, Stephanie, I know, has done a lot on Mexico. There's myself, I do a lot of videos as well on my channel, Afro Expats. I've started a series where I'm interviewing people in different parts of Mexico so you can get perspective on the cost of living from that as well. Meaning, for example, San Miguel is higher. The real estate is ridiculous here. I mean, American prices, it's really not cool. But I also think that you choose to live the way you choose to live. You know, like if you came and you said, I want high end, I want this, I want that, that would be the same as me going to New York and saying, I want expensive, I want blah, 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 and moving myself to Manhattan, knowing that this is going to cost a lot. There are places in San Miguel that you don't have to pay a lot. I mean, I can drive 10 minutes away from Centro and get a 3 bedroom, a 3 bathroom, nice townhouse with security, swimming pool, gyms for $500 a month. I can go right here next door. There's another complex I saw, a 2-2 over there with Micah's teacher a few months ago, and it was also $500 a month, and it was fully furnished. Now, is it the fanciest spot in town? No, you probably have to put your little touches on it, but you can still find very affordable. I've seen little efficiencies in town that were literally 6,000 pesos a month, fully furnished and included stuff, and that's about 300 US dollars a month. So you can be way over here or you can be over here. It just kind of depends. And if you give yourself time to Zacatecas, and I keep making that as my point of reference because I think that's the first place that I've been to that was like really were definitely cheaper. But I also saw zero foreigners. Okay, hopping city, tourists from Mexico City, Mexico, wherever, and it was beautiful. And there was so much going on, good food, great restaurant, nice, but it was so much cheaper. I mean, really, we were eating great meals. It was literally about a third to half of what I would pay probably in Samedi comparison.
Okay, that's helpful. That's helpful. And if you want to see more of San Miguel and Michelle's experience, I linked to her Instagram here. I've also linked to her website and to her ebook if you're interested in moving to San Miguel. Michelle has a wealth of resources to help you. Okay, but we have some good questions in the comments. I want to keep going with them for a little while. Tracy asked, did you obtain residency before moving to San Miguel, or did you wait until after you moved?
I actually did it after I moved, but I was trying to do it before. It just didn't quite work out. So what I did was I kind of came here. I got set up. I had a lot of things to finish and do in the U.S. I went to the consulate several times before, the one that gave you a hard time, Rashida, Miami, and I um, didn't really understand all the steps and processes, and they just don't really give you clear information. It's also inconsistent. Long story short, I ended up coming here because I had a plane ticket. I had stuff kind of already set up for that process, and I had to leave anyway. In the 6 or 7 week time frame, I think it was. So actually, no, it was 5 weeks. So what ended up happening was as I came, I kind of, got a place or started looking for things that we needed. And then I went back to the US. I got my dog. Then I went back to the US for a wedding. So it was sort of a 1 year process of getting settled. And then finally, we um, finalized our residency.
Okay. Um, I didn't realize that. I thought you got it before you moved down, so that's interesting. That is interesting. Susan, who you just answered the question for, says she is coming to check it out. That's really exciting. I love hearing people say that. It truly is my favorite small town in the world. If I wasn't a big city girl, I would be in San Miguel de Allende. And one of the things I love about it is a 4 hour ride from Mexico, like bus ride from Mexico City. So I can hop on these luxury buses, and I mean, they're spacious. They have TVs. They're usually pretty empty. It's really nice. Like a lot of times, I think it's like $20 round trip. Hop on and go spend a weekend there or a couple days there and come back, and it's a really great getaway. Which is why I think it still has that charm for people who live down here. It's easy to access, um, and it's a good place to be. But I've never really thought of living there. So I'm
Mhm.
fascinated that you picked up your family and said, this is it. And we have someone who asked a somewhat related
Yeah.
question, which was Sia More asked, would you recommend a Black family move to Mexico? And I mean, you are a Black family who moved to Mexico, so I'm sure you would. Okay, you are frozen on my end.
Yeah. I actually didn't really think. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yep,
Oh no.
I can hear you.
Charge. Uh, a lot of thought in regard to trying to be somewhere with a Black family because I felt like I would be safer. And for me, being safer was just a lot going on in the US. And just I was having like the types of anxieties that I don't normally have because I don't know, I'm a pretty brave person in terms of travel, but in general, things and bringing my kid to school had, was changing. And I know that as a parent, we all probably experienced this to some degree. And that was really the motivation for me. So moving here, um, I didn't really think about that because I didn't think Mexico as a place. Let me move my Black family to Mexico to look for other Black families. I just wanted a different experience and I wanted to be out of the US now. Some stay temporarily, some families, not just, couples or single people. So if that helps any, there you go.
Okay, good. What would you, when you think of San Miguel, what would you tell someone who doesn't have a family and is considering moving there, or doesn't have a family moving with them? So someone moving alone, say a Black woman moving alone, would you recommend they move to San Miguel?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think what I do with my clients is I always say, think about the things that you like and enjoy. And if you are looking for a community that you can kind of blend into, make friends pretty easily, feel like you can walk around in a city and not worry about your safety, you have to kind of figure out like what fits your lifestyle. Are you an artist? Are you a writer? Are you someone who's into theater? Do you like music? All of these things are here, whether you want to see it or you want to be it. You can be both. You can do both. There was salsa dancing last night, and there were several older ladies there that, yeah, they were getting it in. I mean, really salsa dancing, probably in their 70s. And, they were just chilling. They obviously had their community of people that they are friends with that showed up, and they all just started doing their thing. And I really like that this city kind of has a lot of offerings for different age brackets. And as I said, with the family scenario, we have our friends. Daryl has his friends. I have mine. I do girls' nights. Um, I do family things. He and I do dates. So I feel that there's really something for everyone, and it just kind of comes down to what fits for your lifestyle. Like some people just want to be in a city, and I understand that San Miguel is a city, but it's not like Mexico City. If you really want city, and you don't want to necessarily be in one that, is huge, Querétaro is right next door. It's conveniently located to San Miguel. It's about 45 minutes from here, maybe 1 hour. And you can go there as well. It's growing. It has a lot of what you need. So I really just feel that Mexico has.
Okay. What would you say is that whatever things that you might want that are hard to find in small town central Mexico?
Can you hear me?
There's something going on, kind of sound buzziness, like you're touching a microphone.
Okay.
Did you hear my question?
No.
Uh, are there things that you can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Are there things in that you want in your normal day-to-day life that you have a hard time finding in small town central Mexico?
The only thing that I think I have a hard time finding is a hairstylist. So if anyone wants to move to San Miguel and do my hair, please come. Other than that, nothing else.
Okay. All right. So there's no like products or foods because fortunately for her, there's an HEB in Querétaro, and I know people. That's where it is, right? The HEB is there. Major issue.
Yeah. HEB?
That's in Querétaro, right? Can you hear me? Something happened to your sound. Something changed, and it's not
I
working. Okay.
can't hear you.
Okay. Let's see. Are there any programs open that you can close? Are you touching a microphone? Because it sounds like there's that buzzy, like you're touching a
I
mic.
didn't hear what you said.
Okay,
Sorry.
no problem. We'll try this again. Uh, there's an HEB store in Querétaro, right?
It's really static.
Okay. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Let me try. Try now. Say something. Nope. Nope. Okay, I don't know what's going on with your sound. Something changed.
I haven't touched anything.
Okay, Michelle, can you hear me?
And my batteries. I can hear you now. There's a lot of static. Mhm.
I don't know what's going on with your sound. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, hold on. I'm going to add left and then
Hold on, I'm going to add left.
hold
Let
on.
me try
And then
hold on, I'm going to add
here.
hold on. And then hold on.
Say something, Michelle.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. There's still a delay, but I'm on my cell phone now.
The sound is so much better. The sound is a lot better. So that's good. It was very sounded like you were like rubbing on a mic before.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we were
I
talking about
wasn't. It was my mic.
it's fine. It's fine. Who knows? Who knows?
Okay.
Um, we're talking about the access to like big stores and familiar stores in San Miguel or Querétaro. So there's an HEB in Querétaro, right? And then there are a couple of big malls that have major stores, right?
Yes.
So what are like the big stores that people would
Yes. Okay, so shopping, pretty much, yes, you have access to everything. You have HEB, which is out of Texas, I believe, originally. There's Walmart, if that's your thing. There is Office Depot, Home Depot, all the stores in the mall that you would get in the US, they have that and more. Zara, H&M, Forever 21, Nike stores. It's endless. I mean, the malls in Querétaro are high, high, high end. So really and truly, you're not really lacking anything. I know that there are stylists in Querétaro, but it's just been the digging for them. There are some products that you might not be able to find, but for the most part, I think between Amazon US, which delivers to Mexico, and then Amazon Mex and Mercado Libre, there are lots of options for you to pretty much get what you need. Furniture, if you decided to move here without shipping, you can furnish your entire house. Really and truly, I don't feel like there's a lack in this regard. Moving around the country is affordable. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much that I can say that I'm missing. Every now and then I want some grits, so I just bring that back from the US when I travel there.
grits is like the one thing I
You
say
don't want
like
it until you can't get it.
right. Like if you are a regular grits eater, go on ahead and put like fill a suitcase full of it, right? Like otherwise, I don't feel like there's anything unless you're moving to a very small town that doesn't have access to large stores and you don't have a car, you're not going to do that. You don't need to bring. I see people bring spices to Mexico and I'm like, no baby, you don't unless it's like a blend that your grandmama makes and you
Yeah,
can't get it anywhere else in the world. Like if it's a regular,
right.
like like if it is a single ingredient spice, you will get it here. Like you don't need to do that. We got you. But grits, you bring those with you. Um, so
Exactly.
Valerina had a question for you, which is see if it pops up. Did you already know the language before you moved, or how long did it take you to learn slash feel comfortable communicating with the locals?
Well, I thought I knew it better than I did, um, but I realized quickly that, there are a lot of different dialects in Spanish. I was used to living in Miami, so Cuban Spanish is very different. I learned Spanish mostly when I traveled in South America years ago. Ecuador just has like a very pure kind of version of Spanish. And then also with my traveling back and forth. So to answer the question was, is yes, I had a good base for Spanish, but honestly, I really feel like I just have not grasped the language, but I definitely am able to move around in society. And I do think that it's very important to learn it if you don't learn it beforehand, because that was difficult for me. I need to be able to hear it all the time, practice it, use it. And since I've lived here over the last 3 years, I've realized that there are some very basic things that make up conversation, make up requests and questions. There's the I want, I need, where is, and then you start building from there on the vocabulary. So a lot of what I knew kind of started with that. Of course, the numbers. You need to know your numbers. I'm sorry, you got to know your numbers because otherwise you're not going to be able to count that quickly because of the exchange rates and money. You get $5 versus hundreds and thousands of pesos. It's kind of like we're not used to paying for groceries and it's like 2,500 pesos and blah blah, what's my change? So you kind of really need to understand the numbers and things like that. But for the most part, I would say that I didn't know it well, and I know it much better now. I really don't have any issues moving around Mexico. In some places, like when I went to Zacatecas, they had a hard time understanding me, but I think it's just because they're not so used to American tourists or foreigners from other places that don't speak well. And I realized, like, oh, okay, I could get away with this in San Miguel. But for the most part, I think it's important to learn the language. But I didn't really study hard before I got here. I had pockets of learning over the years.
Hmm. So I thought I knew the language when I moved down here too, or I thought I knew enough. And I realized that happened to me a couple of times. I'd go out to dinner, and when they asked if I wanted a tip, I would say yes, and I would tell them the percentage. And I meant to say 15, but I kept saying 50. But the good thing about Mexico City is that every time they were like, "Are you sure about that? Like, is that did you like did you really mean to say tip us 50%, or is your Spanish
Oh,
bad?" Like every time, and I'd be like, "Oh no, my Spanish is just bad." Like no one ever tipped themselves 50% when I said it. They were every single time they were like, "I don't think you meant that." So because
right.
Mexico City is a city where there isn't a lot of English spoken, but people don't hold that against you. Like if you don't know the right word in Spanish, they don't work with you to figure out what it is you want. Um, but there's more English spoken as far as I can tell in San Miguel. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like you can get away with less Spanish, right? Like because there's a lot of tourists and stuff, right,
Yeah,
Michelle?
you
Yeah.
you definitely you definitely can adjust to visiting or living here, kind of similar to going to like the beach towns that are really popular in Mexico. For sure, you don't need to know as much Spanish in San Miguel, and is the reason why a lot of Americans have settled here. But additionally, a lot of people like to come and visit or live here, and was also one of the things that made me lean towards it because I knew my husband knew nothing. And I really wanted him to not feel like I am the one who is bringing this experience to life because I have to translate everything for him. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to be able to say, I can adjust and live in this place and I can communicate and I can get around, I can shop, I can jump in a taxi, I can go to a restaurant, I can go to a bar, I can go out and enjoy something without feeling like people cannot understand anything I'm saying. So this is why for me, San Miguel was really a soft landing, and I always call it it's a great transitional city. For example, if you're an adventurous person and you say, you know what, I just want to travel around Mexico, but I have family members, they might not adjust well. I feel like this is a good starting point, and then from there you can learn Spanish, and that's on you. 3 months, 6 months, a year. I feel like it gives you the best of both worlds. If you decided to go out and just speak Spanish to people here, they will try to understand you. And other places, I've gotten seriously blank stares. And I'm like, I know I can say this, I can get it out there. Like, what's wrong? Why aren't people understanding me? It can be frustrating. So, San Miguel's definitely softer in this regard.
I find with my Spanish too that sometimes I'm saying the right thing and people are still looking at me with like blank stares. I think it's because I'm timid. Because even though I'm saying it right, I'm not sure that I'm saying it right. So I don't think I'm saying it with like the tenor. Like I don't think I'm really putting it out there. I'm kind of hesitant about it. And so they don't know what I'm saying, right? I'm not as commanding as I might normally be because I'm like, I don't know if these are the right words. So I'm going to kind of mumble them and hope that you go along with it. And so I think that for people who are coming down here, who are coming to Mexico and who might not know a lot of Spanish, boldly saying the words that you think are right is better than kind of like mumbling the words and not being sure. So just like say what it is, someone will figure out what you need, what you mean. There are very few situations where not knowing the right word is going to negatively impact you. Like if you get caught up by the police, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
Like you need to know some words, right? But even then, like I don't know fluent Spanish, and I've had encounters with police that I have initiated. Like I need your help figuring out where to go because I'm lost, right? And it's always been very pleasant, always been very helpful, and even with my little Spanish, it's not like it's a problem. So yeah, coming down here
Yeah.
is coming to I think all of Mexico is generally a soft landing for Americans, but San Miguel, I could see it being like a really great one. Kind of jealous of the move.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Micah. How old is he right now?
He's 9.
He's 9. Do you see Micah, you and Micah and your husband, Daryl, right?
Yes.
Do you see all three of you living there all the way through high school for Micah?
That's a good question. In the moment, I mean, he's going into fourth grade, and he is fully fluent in Spanish, better than us put together, and not without us, whatever. But I'm not sure about the high school scenario in regard to San Miguel de Allende. And I say that because I'm not sure that it will provide him with the level of education that I have mentally set up. So I just think that the options for high school might be better in like a city like Querétaro. I know that there are lots of international schools. There's even a Canadian school. And because we are Canadian citizens, including my son, um, I might look at something like this. There's one school here that's run by an American lady. She's been here for 30 years, and it provides, they only teach from an American standard. It's a private school, it's very affordable. They start at fifth grade, so I'm considering putting him there next year. Um, but they give a high school diploma that is at the same level as getting a high school diploma in the US. So she's really an American based school in San Miguel, and I've heard really good things about her. And I feel like that's kind of the only option. So when he gets to the high school level, I think I would, or before it, I will certainly investigate what else is here. Would I move back to the US for high school? Absolutely not. No, I would almost rather move to yet another country.
Okay.
No, that's like the scary year for me, scary years for me. So, no.
Okay. So you don't want him in the US as a teenager. Try it again, Michelle.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, I couldn't hear you. You cut out for a second. So I was asking to try it again, but if you didn't hear my question, it was would you is it that you don't want him in the US as a teenager?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, we've all seen enough stories about why. I think that's pretty clear. But yeah, I would say I wouldn't want that for him. I think I would even prefer that we went to a whole different place, maybe somewhere in Europe or something else. I'm not really sure what he's going to get into. He's very much into robotics right now, engineering, coding. So, we'll see where that leads us.
Okay. All right. So V is just joining us, but she says San Miguel is the best city in Mexico. Love my time there. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's the best city, but it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Good. Oh, there was another question about cities that I did want to get to, which was the comment from Where'd that go? From Ciamore, which was, "What are your favorite cities in Mexico?"
I would say for sure here, as far as living goes, I love Oaxaca City. I absolutely love Mexico City. I'm coming to see you, Rashida, soon. I love Zacatecas. I just discovered that 2 years ago. I went to Morelia. I absolutely loved it there. I love Huelchuco, which is more of like a beach city. It's in also the state of Oaxaca. Um, I can't say I really love anywhere yet in the Yucatan. I haven't been to Merida yet. I've heard good things about it, so it's on my list. Next weekend, we're going to Mazatlan, so I'm going to get to see that as far as the beach city goes. I've been to Zihuatanejo. I really liked it. It's a beach. It's more laid back, but I can't say I love the city itself as far as a place to admire. But it's still very nice in its own way. Um, and a lot of the other places I've been to have been more like little fishing villages and towns along the Pacific coast. I have not been to Acapulco or any of these places, but I've been to beaches again on the Pacific coast, definitely Cancun and Playa. And those places were not really so appealing to me because they felt too transient. Meaning, if you live there, there's always someone kind of coming and going. But I can say that I've interviewed several folks that are living in Playa and they really, really like it. And I think it kind of depends on where you live. I only went there as a tourist, so I don't want to judge it. I think if it's for you, it's just for you. You just have to kind of go and see what works for you. I love Querétaro. I don't know why I forgot about Querétaro. That's right kind of in our backyard. It's also a great option.
Okay. Good. 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 Yeah, I love a lot of cities you mentioned. Playa really has such a great community there. It's always hot. Like always sweating when I visit. So I'm like, not to live for me, but I do love visiting, and I have a lot of friends in the community there. It's a great choice if you want another soft landing as a Black woman leaving the U.S. If you want a place where you will walk down the street and see another woman who looks like you, and you don't and you want to be near a beach, Playa is a really good choice for that. Yeah. All right. So
Yes.
how
I,
would you rate? Sorry. How would you rate the cost of living compared to Mexico City and also to Florida?
for sure, it's less expensive here. Um, in general, I feel that you get more bang for your buck. You can pay a lot and you can spend a lot. It's very easy to spend a lot here. It's a cash society. I'm pretty sure Mexico in general is a cash society, but I don't think is as expensive as Florida. Mexico City, I'm pretty sure it's less expensive in Mexico City because Mexico City just has more options. I think the comparisons to the population in Mexico City that are actually Mexicans in general, and the foreign community, I feel that it's, like the scales basically don't allow for prices to get so out of control because the demand for locals that are living there are not going to necessarily, have this escalate. And here I just feel like because it's such a concentrated city, the real estate around El Centro has gone like way up over the last probably 10 to 20, I won't even say 20 years, I would say 10 years. When I came in 2005, I remember looking at real estate in El Centro that needed work, but it was a house that was around 30 or 40,000 US dollars. Like you'll never see that in Central, not now. It's houses here sometimes are like 500,000 and up US dollars. So it's really outrageous. I mean, you can probably go over to Querétaro and buy something. So cost of living in general to me is really the real estate, but other things cost what it would cost in most places in Mexico. For example, your utility, water, services, you can get a housekeeper. I think that those costs are pretty generalized across the country. The services that come to your home are pretty affordable. Like, having things delivered, we get things delivered here sometimes, and it's not expensive. You can call a butcher, have just, things delivered. I've had a podiatrist come here. I have a nail girl who comes to my house since COVID. So I feel that those costs are very affordable and probably generally the same in general across the board in Mexico. But real estate is probably the one thing that's higher. But, you can kind of balance things out. I think that if you move to San Miguel and you live somewhere else and you have a car and insurance and medical and blah, 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 you could probably move to San Miguel, pay a little more than you would in another city in Mexico, but all your other costs are going to be less. Maybe you don't need a car anymore, or even if you buy a car, you're just paying very little insurance for the whole year and you save in this regard. So I think it balances itself out. You just have to do your own numbers.
Right. So my impression of San Miguel is that is a tourist, definitely a tourist perspective because I've never lived there. But I feel like as someone who, if I get up and I walk around and I do things as a tourist, my day as a tourist is generally going to be more expensive in San Miguel than it will be in Mexico City, but probably less expensive in a tourist in Florida, since that was the original question. Because in Mexico City, I feel like it's really easy as a tourist to stumble upon a $200 meal or a 20-cent taco. I just don't, in my perspective, in San Miguel, it was harder to find those 20-cent tacos. Now, granted, I stayed in Centro a lot, right? So I felt like a lot of the restaurants were, even if they weren't on the higher end side, I was still paying close to US prices for food when I was there, where I can get things a lot cheaper here in Mexico City. And it's easier to run into like a taco stand on every corner. Um, I don't know. What do you think about that, Michelle? We lost Michelle. Hopefully she'll call back in a second. Okay, so I see some comments from you guys. Let me see what else we can talk about while Michelle calls back in. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. Yay. Okay, so Mexico is a beautiful country. They should pay me for all I do, all the talking I do about them. But there really is a lot to see and a lot to do. So if you're not sure about Mexico in general, it's a beautiful place to visit, and I recommend it for all. Okay, let's see. Let's see what else. And let me link you again to. Wait, here comes Michelle. I'm going to link you in a second to Michelle's. Hey, Michelle,
Okay.
you're back on. We're back
Here.
live. All right.
Wow, technology It's not being nice today.
You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, so I'm going to link if Michelle, if someone wants to work with you, what is the best way to go about that?
Basically, you can find me on afroexpats.com. I have 3 strategy sessions that you can book with me if you're interested in moving to San Miguel, or you're interested in moving to Mexico, or if you're interested in traveling here. I kind of help people just kind of take all of the question work and time and waste, time spinning your wheels and things like that. So everything is there. And then from that, you can find me on YouTube, and you can find me on Facebook. I have a Black SMA community as well, which is a group, so you have to request to join it. It's Black SMA hyphen San Miguel de Allende, and that's on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, so everything is kind of on my website. In addition to that, you can subscribe and stay in touch with me in regard to what's happening in SMA, what's happening in Mexico. And then on my channel, like I said, I'm doing a lifestyle series where I interview people around Mexico in different parts from a Black perspective. So if you're interested in other areas, I did one in Querétaro. I did a couple in Playa, and they're all coming. I do one, they come out every Thursday morning. And if you have questions, you can ask questions there. The people that I'm interviewing live in Mexico, and some have been here for a while, some just moved. There's a guy that I met online. He is in a place that I had never heard of. It's called Tuxtla, and I think that's in Gutierrez or Gutierrez. And his story's coming, quite interesting how he ended up there. He moved from Texas. He's like a Texas country boy, and he's now living in Mexico. He loves it. So it's really nice that I've been able to meet you, Rashida, in person as well, and others online mostly, and just to see their story and their journey. So I really, hope that all of this inspires people to find us and, take time to watch our videos. I mean, we do a lot of this content, and it's a lot of work in a good way. We're all passionate about what we're putting out there. And I think that for the most part, it's definitely helpful when you're trying to make the move and you want to see it from our perspective and lens.
Okay. Yeah, I love hearing people say that they're open to the idea of moving because it's like first I never even thought about it until I saw that other people were doing it. Now knowing that we can pay that forward means a lot to me. We have a question from Tracy, which was, did you sell everything and move and replace it when you got there, or did you ship your things down?
Can you hear?
I can hear you. Did you sell everything and move, or did you ship things down?
I actually ship things down, mostly because I didn't want to start over. I actually liked my things. People ask me this a lot in my consultations. What should I do? Should I bring everything? Blah, blah, blah. I really, again, I think that that's a personal choice. I think you have to kind of weigh what you like, what makes you feel at home, what works for you. Some people like myself, I felt that living in someone else's furnished apartment would make this transition a little bit more difficult for me and my family. And that's because I'm a little bit of a designer at heart. So I really wanted this to feel like my home. I wanted things around that I was, visually familiar with in the US. So we chose to ship. And, I know that I've met lots of folks who decided not to. What I wouldn't do is just keep things, tucked away somewhere in the US for a long time. I mean, sometimes you need a few months, but I think really have a plan so that you're either moving everything or you're moving what you think you need to make it homey for you. Or if you're very adventurous and you're open and you don't care about these things, then, find yourself a nice furnished house. I mean, that's very common here, and a lot of them are done well. So I think for the most part, you can get what you need, and it's not impossible to kind of like find a home that works for you. And it's really a personal choice. So we decided to ship almost like a one bedroom apartment. And, I was able to kind of move into this unit, which was furnished. I took everything out mostly. And, I put my own curtains up and my own decor. I mean, some of these, like, I don't know if you can see the vase behind me. I've had those vases for like 20 years probably. My dining room table I've had forever, and I just like it, and I didn't want to give it up. So it's a personal choice.
Okay. Okay. So because I hadn't thought about that, renting something furnished and then getting rid of some of their own furniture. When you did that, was that something your landlord was open to, or did it take some convincing?
Oh yeah, because no, they were fine with it. I think because I didn't really ask permission, I just did it. I moved in and I was like, these things are going in storage. I pay for the storage. That's something I would definitely do different. I probably would have taken more time to find a completely unfurnished apartment. But when we committed to it, um, I was emotionally committed as well, meaning I saw it, I liked it, and I had already emotionally started moving in before I got here. I
Okay.
had already started mentally investing in how I'm going to lay everything out. So I got here, had a lease, and I was kind of like, all right, I really don't want these items. And I was back and forth because I didn't know initially, was I going to move everything right away, or will I put some things in storage? But then as we started making our plans and getting closer to the date to move, it all just sort of tumbled together. And I was just like, okay, let's just ship our things. Let's not leave them in the US, because I've been through that before in the past, not necessarily moving um, to another country, but moving from one state to another. And then I had stuff in storage for like 3 years. That's a lot of money. So I didn't want to really go through that again. So in the end, I said, you know what? Let's just put their things in storage. And storage here really didn't cost a lot. And they didn't have a ton of stuff. And some of it we kept. Like, for example, I only came with one bed, and it's a
Hmm.
3 bedroom. So the other rooms had beds in them that I actually liked the style. So I was like, okay, I can use that. I can work with this dresser. No, I don't want that couch. Let's move that out. And I already have my own. So it's really like a little bit of a medley. I would say 80% of the items are my things, and 20% happens to still be here. It belongs to the landlord. But they were fine with it. I think most landlords are negotiating with folks if you really want something. Some will just outright say no. But what I've learned in Mexico is always ask, especially when it comes to paying rent, or who's paying for what, or can you fix this? It's always worth asking. It's definitely a little bit more flexible here in that regard. But, and you may have covered this, people need to know that an unfurnished apartment is usually 100% unfurnished. That means you don't get appliances, you
Yeah.
don't get a washing machine and a dryer.
No fridge.
So you need to probably purchase all of these items. Um, that's just kind of how it,
Yeah.
right.
The first time I tried to rent an apartment, it was furnished and the furniture was going to stay, but there was no fridge. And I was like, no. And he was like, we don't do that down here. And I was like, but you're going to do it for me because I'm not moving in without it. I was like, I need a fridge because I didn't realize that that was customary here. But I thought that it was odd that it had furniture that was staying, but the guy who lived there never had a fridge
Right.
because it was like he was living in his parents' place and they were going to rent it to me when he moved out. And he was like, no, there's no fridge in here.
Okay.
And I'm like, you got a bed and no fridge? Like, what is this life? What's happening here? Um, but yeah, the place I'm in now came unfurnished and it has a stove. and it has a spot underneath the counter for a dishwasher, which I was like, I will not be installing a dishwasher, so I guess there won't be a dishwasher here, right? So, but I had to buy my own fridge. I got it at Home Depot. I had to buy a washer dryer. I had to buy everything. There were curtains in the bedrooms. There were no curtains in the living room. But it
Right.
gets really hot in here. I have floor to ceiling windows, so it gets really hot in here in the summertime. So I was like, we need curtains. And they were like, wait a month and see if you really still need curtains. And a month later, I was like, so about those curtains, could we just do that
Yeah.
now? And they did. And it wasn't a problem. They did. They didn't, there was no cost involved for me. But yeah, there's a lot of like who is responsible for what with everything, like the maintenance, you've got to figure out
Yeah.
who is paying every single cost. So that's a great point. I'm trying to
Yeah.
drop
And
a link.
in addition to, sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
In addition to that, I wanted to say a little bit more about it. Two things, again, I know I'm plugging myself a little bit, but I'm plugging because it's important that you have some kind of, conversation with someone if you can before you move here that already lives here, whether it's Rashida, whether it's me. There are several other ladies that I know that do this. And I'll tell you why. So I had a client who recently moved to San Miguel and, we did a session and then her mom also decided to move, and I did a session with both of them both times. And she just was like, I'm out of here. She's out of here. She's mom, and she's just like, I'm leaving. Blah blah blah. I got pushed up. I'm going to do blah 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 blah. And we had our session, and then she tells me, like later on, she contacts me. She says, "Hey, I'm coming on this date instead of whatever." And I said, "Oh, great. Congratulations." And she tells me she's flying into Puerto Vallarta. Okay. If people don't realize, like, Mexico is huge. Okay. No, I can't meet you on the beach tomorrow to have a drink in Cancun. Okay. I just can't because it's 22 hours away. I think that people just don't have this perspective. So she said, I'm flying into Puerto Vallarta because I got a ticket on Southwest Airline and they fly direct there from wherever she was coming from. And then I'm going to drive from there to San Miguel because it's only 5 or 6 hours. Well, no, it's not. It's actually 10 hours. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, okay, no, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. Needless to say, I had to kind of coach her through this. I said, no, okay, well, if you already got those tickets, she was going to rent a car and drive from Puerto Vallarta to here, get herself established, and then drive the car back or somehow drop it off at another place and whatever. I was just like, that's crazy. I said, okay, since you have those tickets, go ahead and just get a bus. Just take a bus. It's going to be safer for you. You're going to not have to figure out like what's what on the highways. I've traveled road trips around Mexico, and the GPS is not your friend. Period. End of story. It's just not your friend. It doesn't work the same here. And then she gets here, and I had given her some contacts for a unit and where I live, and then she went with the realtor that I had referred her to, and she made her own decisions. There's nothing wrong with what happened, but she's had like a really like bumpy landing in SMA because the first apartment had a lot of struggles and issues. And then she was able to get out of it, and then she moved into another unit. And this has all happened within 1 month. Okay. There's nothing worse than moving around. She's now in her third place. So my point of saying all of that is Mexico really is not set up for the renter. They don't do a lot to houses. It might be worth it if you're moving into a older home to seriously just find someone to do an inspection for you. If you're renting it, because sometimes once you move in, they don't want to give you your money back, or they may not want you to break your lease. So these are things that others have experienced. So I'm sharing it with the audience because you kind of need to understand, like, here things are not really done in the standard sense of what we're used to. Like you said, you moved into a place, there's a hole where there should be a dishwasher, and it's like, well, we're not putting it in, but you can put it in, or you
Right.
can cover it, or whatever. So you kind of need to understand and not get mad and frustrated. Maybe you just, what, I'm going to move on, or I'll do that. But they don't do a lot of the repairs that happen. Like, for example, if my refrigerator breaks, the dishwasher breaks, or the washing machine and dryer breaks, even though it's theirs, they're not going to fix it. They don't pay for stuff like that. Now, when I first moved in, I had like a leak. They paid for that because I was like, if you guys don't pay for that, I'm moving out. I mean, they didn't refuse it, but I'm just saying, like, they'll pay for the structural things of the house, but they're not going to really pay for things inside. Like, I've had to have like plumbing things done, and it doesn't cost a lot, but I just want people to understand like that is not something that is standard in the US. Some landlords are nice and they might do it, but for the most part, you're going to be the one that's repairing these things. So don't get upset
Mhm.
because that's just the way it is.
Mhm. That's a good point. That's a good point. I want to talk to you about your search for where you live right now. But for the people in the comments talking about my storage, I will block you. I will block you. That includes my mama. I have things in storage. It's been 3 years. Mind your business. Mind it. Before you get blocked, including you, mom. Okay, Michelle, can you hear me? I think so. I think you can hear me. I wanted to ask
Yes.
about, so we talked briefly about your experience on House Hunters um, in the beginning. You are in the home that you chose on House Hunters, right?
Yes.
And did they, I kind of want to know how that worked. If you can share a little bit, like, did you have places in mind ahead of time, ahead of filming, or were those truly things that the agent just was like, what about these? And then you went and proceeded like that.
Okay, so I guess I slightly bust the House Hunter bubble. They work backwards. So, it's like they basically cast people for the show. They ask you, hey, are you interested? How long have you been in your place? And then they kind of work backwards. So a lot of it is staged,
Okay.
a lot of it is the story got here and things like that. So, I mean, we were here. This was our house. And the way they do it is you see other places, but then you also include the looking for a home is your home is already. So,
Okay.
because realistically, they can't follow you, for the whole journey in terms of making money and wrapping it up in 4 days. So that's kind of how that worked. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I don't really want to put that out there, but it is what it is.
Okay. That's I would not have guessed that at all because I know, remember when they showed the house you chose, they showed like the difference in the furniture. Like it was like in one shot it looked one way, and then after your move-in date, it was like this other, beautiful thing. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is how she picked, this is how she decorated it. But
Yeah,
there's some magic behind the scenes in that, huh?
totally magic. So, first of all, they have to kind of remove a lot of things that are either a brand,
Mhm.
artwork, which for me, artwork, when people talk about artwork, I think about fine art, like someone signed it and it's an original piece by so and so, Picasso. And it's like, do you have permission from Picasso to show that on HGTV? No. So when we started the process, they said you're going to have to take things down. I have like a stack full of just things. For example, I have, I'm looking at them, my Lonely Planet guides to all the countries I've visited because I usually buy them. I had to turn those around so you can't see the name and
Oh,
you can't see it. They had to cover and tape up the names on the refrigerator and the microwave and, all the brands and things like that, especially when we were outside talking. They cover, maybe you don't notice it, maybe you'll notice it now. They cover the name of the vehicle. Everything is like kind of covered. So with the art and the decor, um, for me, I'm like, well, I bought that at Marshall's or TJ Maxx. So for me, I'm like, that's not, a fine piece of art by an artist and it's signed, but that had to be covered as well. So what ended up happening was the director, we were able to meet her in advance and she kind of walked through our house like, you got to take that down. You got to move this. You can't do that. And literally, I was just like, oh my God, when they do the reveal, our house is going to look like, we haven't even moved in yet. So, luckily for me, because I shipped my stuff from the US, I had a lot of things that I could use
Hmm.
in place of my actual art and my actual things. So, for example, I'm going to turn my phone just a tad so you just to give me a good example. There was one scene where I had like this really cool fabric that had like prints and whatever, and I hung it on like a curtain rod over to make it look like art. But the actual art that's there is this. That's what was there. I had to take it down. So the house was kind of staged and for all these different reasons that are legal reasons, and we didn't have a lot of say. So I had to kind of like quickly work the night and day before to kind of still make it look like all right, this is my touch and this is my blah 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 blah. But a lot of my pieces that are actually hanging up, I had to take them down, and like I said, I replaced them with material. I was like, okay, no one's going to claim this fabric. So there you go.
Okay. Okay, that's pretty cool to know. Yeah, it was interesting seeing you guys go through that experience and talk about what you wanted and what he wanted because they were significantly different in some parts. All right. Let's see. Let's see if there are any more. If you have any more comments or questions, please drop them in the chat. Um, and we will try to get to them. This question from MLG73. What is the job market like where you live in Mexico? I will tell all of you, do not come down here and try to get a job. Do not come to Mexico and try to
Amen.
unless you already have a job that is bringing you down here, right? Like a lot of teachers come down here for international schools. Unless you already have a job here but is bringing you down here on a work visa, don't come to Mexico and try to get a job. You don't want to work for what people are getting paid down here. You don't. You won't.
No,
Mm-mm.
no, you don't. You don't. And I think too, in line with that, I know that that comes up because some people want out. I do think that with COVID, with a lot of people that are helping people coach or are coaching, I think it might be worth hiring even for an hour, speaking to someone to see if there's a special talent that you have or something
Mhm.
that you're doing that you can do online. Because I do think that we are in that stage and chapter of life right now. And, you know, all kind of merging into, well, what can I offer? What am I expert at? And, or what can I become more, of an expert in? And I think that that's a good like starting point. But yeah, you definitely don't want to come down here to earn Mexican pesos. And I'm not saying that in a negative sense. I just think it's going to be really tough to adjust. And it's also illegal if you're not
Uh,
a resident.
yeah. Yeah. If you don't have,
It's like people working under the table in the
yeah.
US, same thing. And you can get into troubles, serious problems because the Mexicans, the Mexican government, yeah,
Yeah. I think that's a good point. You don't want to get in trouble for doing it. And a lot of, I do not see foreigners in public facing jobs. I just don't.
meaning, yeah.
No. So there may be a market for a special skill that you have, and you may be able to do the job in Mexico, but just generally the job market, don't even think about it. Like that getting a job in Mexico shouldn't be your plan to support yourself unless you are, like I said, unless you already have a job and that's what's bringing you down here. It just shouldn't. All right.
Exactly.
Um,
You need a working visa to make pesos. If you earn pesos in Mexico, you need a working visa. It doesn't matter if you have a permanent resident card, a temporary resident card. You additionally need a working visa to earn pesos in any capacity. Otherwise, you will get in trouble. Just to clarify that.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, so Wi-Fi. I'm in the city. My Wi-Fi right now, YouTube is telling me that I have an excellent connection for YouTube. I do a lot of video stuff, and my connection is usually just fine. I have had days where, like, right when I'm signing on to something, the Wi-Fi has gone out and been out for like a minute. Like, I unplug it, plug it back in, it's fine. But that's happened maybe once or twice in the 8 months I've been here. So it doesn't. My Wi-Fi in Mexico City is as regular as it would be if I was paying for Comcast in the US or Infinity or one of those. Like, it's fine. What about you, Michelle?
The Wi-Fi that I have is amazing. I have fiber optics, and this was just put into our development, but we live a little bit outside of what I consider El Centro. So in some developments, they've only done the regular wiring. Prior to this, I had satellite internet, which was very stable. The customer service was good. It was definitely on the higher end in terms of pricing. It was around 75 US dollars a month, which is kind of high for internet. I mean, in the US, you can kind of get the bundle and blah, 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 and the TV and whatever. This was just internet. And then when they put in fiber optics in my community, I kind of waited to see how it was going to go down with my neighbors because they had a whole different company and everyone would complain about it. And I was like, well, I'm happy with my satellite. I'll keep paying my 75 and keep that. And once everyone got theirs installed and they were talking and raving about how good it was and their connectivity was faster, blah, 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 I went ahead and signed up with Telmex, which is a fiber optic service that is really and truly, it's been amazing. And it costs me about $50 a month now. And I really can't complain about it. I haven't lost any connections here. And even on the satellite, I think I had maybe two issues over a 3 year or 2.5 year span of time. Once they had to come in and update my modem, and another time they were just doing some system thing that had nothing to do with me. But for the most part, it's pretty good. And it's sometimes, like a little bit slow loading. And that's only because I think we're living in homes that are built out of concrete and cement. So, where our boxes, it's and our house is very open. But going into the upstairs level, the boxes downstairs, but you just buy like a Netgear extender, which is what we have, and it's fine. Just you can definitely survive. So that's something to consider if you move to San Miguel, maybe to parts of Querétaro or other areas. Definitely look at what and who provides internet and how is it set up. Like, is it fiber optics or is it just the wires and the modem, or is it satellite? If it's satellite, it's probably going to be a little bit better.
Okay. Um, I'm paying like $25, I think, for my internet, and that includes Netflix. So the prices differ greatly. You're paying a lot more out there, but you also had satellite, which sounds amazing. Mine, it's fine, but there are no satellites involved as far as I know. But yeah, so the internet in Mexico City is actually pretty cheap overall. But it just reminded me they have stopped sending me bills and they don't email me either. And I think I last paid them about 30 days ago. The last time I went to pay them, I was like, when's the last time I paid this bill? Because you haven't let me know I need to pay it. And I think I owed like 3 months. I was 3 months behind. And the internet was still interneting. Everything was like nothing got shut off. Everything was still going. And I was like, okay, let me run you this money. And then since then, they've literally not sent me another bill. And I don't know. I used to get them in the mail. I don't know what happened, but I no longer get bills in the mail from them. And I don't get emails about my bill either. But I have internet.
Who knows?
Who knows? That is one thing I will say is I have found the mail service and the delivery services down here to be inconsistent. Like, if someone
Mhm.
says I want to send you something in the mail, I'm like, what are the other options? Like, who's coming to visit me that I can get to bring this thing down with them? Like, do we have any other options than shipping to where I am? Because mail is a mystery down here. It just, sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't. I told you guys a while ago that I bought a TV off Amazon Mexico, and it was out for delivery. It was out for delivery. It was out for delivery. And then it didn't exist anymore. It just,
Oh,
no one knows what happened. I mean, we know what happened. That TV fell off the back of a truck somewhere, right? That TV's in someone's house.
into some living-
What was that?
oh my God.
But Amazon was
I
like,
said into someone's living room.
into someone's living room, right? Amazon said, we don't know where the TV is. If it doesn't show up in 5 days, we'll give you a refund. It didn't show up in 5 days. I got a refund. I ordered another one. That TV showed up. Exact same TV. It was a lower price too. They had, like, the price went down in that number of days. Um, but like, what happened? My credit card company tried to send me new cards, and that they have a system. I think it's like DHL or something, where they had to validate my address while I was on the phone
Mm,
with them to update my address. So we validated the address that it was real. But when the card came down to Mexico, they said my address did not exist. And I'm like, okay, well, no one's used my cards still work. They just had something wrong, some wrong info between their system and my cards. My cards still work. No one is off using these other cards. So I'm not worried about it. But it makes me realize that, like, shipping things, like, I'm not necessarily worried
I
about things
get it.
getting stolen as much as I am, like, them just disappearing. Like, what happened to those cards that got sent? No idea. Like I said, it's been months and no one has ever used the cards. I'm not worried about that. But DHL said I do not exist. And I'm like, there are thousands of people in this building. We exist. Like, how do we get our packages? I don't know. So that
Yeah.
is also, things are expensive. Shipping things down here can be expensive. So
Mm,
if you're the kind of person who thinks that you want to have things delivered to you regularly from the US, like your family sends you packages, it can get kind of pricey. So just an FYI.
forget it.
Yeah.
They're probably better off taking a plane and coming to see you and bringing whatever it is you need,
Hmm.
or you connecting with someone who's. I did the same. I was kind of contemplating shipping or ordering a laptop because actually I've ordered things on Amazon, both the US and Mex, and it does get to my house, but I haven't ordered anything of significance.
Hmm.
Um, so, and mail, you said mail, we don't have mail here in San Miguel, which is fine with me because that means I don't get a bunch of papers and crap in the mail that I don't need. But our electricity, literally, these guys stick a paper on our door. The security guys, they walk around and they stick bills in our door. And as far as ordering stuff, yeah. But with the laptop, I really needed a PC, for another project that I'm working on. And for whatever reason, this particular software or whatever only works better on a PC. And I was not about to download all these other things on my Mac. So I said, I'm going to get, just an inexpensive computer. Well, I wasn't able to buy a laptop here with an English keyboard because obviously we're in Mexico and I didn't want a Spanish keyboard. I want an English keyboard. So I checked with Costco's. I went to a few places and it was just like everyone has a Spanish keyboard. I'm like, okay. So I have a friend who was traveling and I was just like, hey, can I send this please to you? And that's how I'm getting that. But I know that when I was shipping, one of my TVs didn't make it here either. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm just saying these things happen. And, I ended up getting money deducted from my balance. But I think that it's really difficult for companies or even like the moving and shipping company to keep everyone honest. So it's kind of just like it happens. It sucks. So if I had to say, yeah, that's something that's frustrating, that would probably be something. I can't say it happens often. I remember feeling like, well, okay, it's a part of the move. We have one less TV. It's not okay, but someone, compensated us for it, and it is what it is.
I'm actually surprised that happened with the move. With things like the Amazon delivery, I was kind of like, delivery guy came up on a TV. It was like a TV in a TV box. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But I am surprised that it happened with the movers. I felt like, I mean, there has to be, because people do it so frequently and because corporations are moving their humans down here. Wait, what happened? Okay, so because people are moving their humans down here, I'm actually surprised that happened. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. I don't know what's happening right now. Okay. So I think Michelle and I have actually broken up on this. I don't know what's going on. Let me see. See what I can do. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. I don't know what just happened. All right. I think we're going to call it quits, y'all. Thank you for everyone who has been here. Thank you to everyone who showed up. I wasn't expecting this to end like this, but listen, we have had tech issues all day. I don't quite know what's going on. And I appreciate everyone's time and attention. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This is being weird now. So if you guys have more questions for Michelle, hopefully we can have her back on the channel in a little bit. And until then, I will talk to you guys later. Oh, wait. Important announcement for you. If you are a member of Exodus Summit, of the Facebook group, we have an announcement coming on today at 1:30 Eastern Time about our last year, if you came to the summit, it was our September summit. Lots of things to talk about. So we're doing something this year. What we're going to announce today at 1:30 Eastern Time. Let me drop the link for that. If you're not already in the Exodus Summit Facebook group, this is a group for Black women who want to leave the U.S. I'm dropping the link for this now. Join us 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time today in the Facebook group, and hopefully I'll have less tech issues there than I do here. And if you have more questions for Michelle, you know how to reach her because I dropped her link in here a couple times, and I'll put it, and it's in the description of this video. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.